Greetings and welcome to SmartWatchTicks. This is a special YouTube channel dedicated to, well, smartwatches and smartbands. But not all kinds, every kind except for two. We don't cover Apple, you won't see the Apple Watch here, and Android Wear. Android Wear watches like Samsung and LG and all those big ones worth $300, $400, $500. We don't cover those either. Why? Well, they're really expensive, first of all, and there's a lot of other channels that go way deep into that. No, we're about everything else, and by everything else, I mean kind of three categories. There are tethering watches, like these. There are fitness watches and bands that focus primarily on health. And then there's the focus of today's video, which are pure Android watches. These are the ones we're not going to cover today, just to give you an idea that you can have a watch that looks kind of like an Apple Watch, but does other things. And it does them really well. And it costs 40 bucks. Yeah, I'm telling you. Interesting stuff, these tethering watches. This is a tethering watch called a TicWatch 2. Whoa, this thing is super sophisticated. It does all sorts of stuff, except for turn on. Well, we got a review on that one. It's awesome. Here's another kind of an Apple look-alike watch with a longer screen and lots of detail and on and on and on. A ladies' watch, if you like. The LEM2, look at that. What makes these particular watches special is that they will tether to your phone. So you'll be able to use your phone as the central way of making phone calls and receiving phone calls. But when they come in, you can talk to them on the watch. That's a tethering watch. The Android standalone watches that we're going to look at later on today are the kind that you have to put a SIM card in, and it works like a real itty-bitty phone. Yeah, it is. It's a miniature Android phone. So it doesn't do this tethering phone calling stuff well. But let me tell you, go out and get yourself one of these inexpensive tethering kind, hook it up to your phone, walk around looking like a dummy, talking to your wrist and putting your wrist up to your ear, and find out how fast it's going to get old to use a watch as a phone. Get it out of your system, and then you'll probably come back to this video and look for a real Android watch. Of course, if you like doing that stuff, you can do it by putting a SIM card in your Android watch and have data that you can do on the fly when you're out and about, and of course make and receive phone calls, text messages, all that stuff. But for general, this is the world of tethering watches. We got a million of them. This is just a few, and that's one category. Now, a different category are these fellas. These fellas. All right, these fellas and gals. We're talking fitness stuff. Actually, this is a good one. The Garmin Vivoactive. This thing you put on your wrist and you do all sorts of sports-related stuff. Same with these. Here's an 3S. And you get into this thing and you look at all these different things and you can go cycling, you can do running, you can do whatever you want to on it. It acquires GPS on board. It's got a reflective screen, so it's brighter outside than inside. This one's similar to that one. On and on and on. Then you got these kind that are really bright and pretty bands and removable bands at that, which is really cool. Another thing I'm going to talk to you about in just a minute. Well, you get the drift. And then you got these little kinds, too, that are fitness bands that do all sorts of interesting things, like count your steps, count your heart rate, take your blood pressure, calculate your blood oxygen, take a remote shutter so you can take selfies with your phone. Oh, man, all sorts of stuff. Here's another one. And then here's something else, like this one here, that ties with this thing here, which is a special app that ties in with ECG. Yep, you can do an actual electrocardiograph. You see the chart changing down there as it accumulates data? I'm touching an electrode here, folks. Look, poor contact. There I'm back again. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. I can get strange lines on it. It's actually creating, we've got all kinds. So if you're into fitness, check out all of the different fitness bands. But you know what? They're not Android watches. Android watches are really cool. And we have about 40 of them to go through today. So get ready. One thing I also want to mention about Android watches is you're going to find most of them, the bands are not removable. In fact, pretty much all of them. So maybe two, maybe a couple more somewhat incoming. But they have antennas in the bands. So you're not going to be able to take the bands off. All right? But this is a fun little product. Look, it's a band that has a smartwatch in here that'll calculate and compute your steps and your calories burned and your distance traveled and all that stuff. And you can actually attach this band to a regular watch if you'd like. And yeah, you could attach it to another digital smartwatch if you want to, or your regular old analog watch. Yeah, we've got reviews on things like this too. Whoa, what's this? Don't freak out. Don't tune out. I know it looks overwhelming. This is over 40 watches, separated by company, model, and all of the video reviews we've done right here, with a whole bunch of characteristics that go along with it. Now, I made it a little easier to see by taking out the YouTube review link, and I got the chart a little bit larger, but it's still ominous, isn't it? All right, let's break it down. I'm going to show you 3 watches, and I want you to tell me which one you like. Here is watch number 1. It's called the X3. It's a Finau watch, actually. It's got a little charging dock. It's got a TPU, kind of a rubbery band. And this, let's take the little tag off. This is kind of what it looks like on my arm. I don't have any of these turned on right now. I'm just getting a look and feel, okay? That's watch number 1. Here's watch number 2. It's called the i3. It's not made anymore, but in a moment you'll see why I chose this one. It's got a leather band. You see that nice leather band with a little red stitching in it? And if I put it on, it looks like this. All right? How's it feeling for you? Third watch. Here you go. This is called the Q1. It's another Finau watch. And one of the notable differences about this one is it's square. Let's put it on. There. Okay. I'm about to show you a chart that's going to make life a whole lot easier for you that's based on these 3 watches. The first thing you're going to decide is, do you want a round watch or a square watch? If you decide you'd like a square watch, I got a whole bunch of them to look at. We're going to categorize that over on the side. Once we subtract out the square watches, we're left with the round watches. Now, from the round watches, question number 2, if you've decided you want a round watch, do you want a smaller one or a bigger one? What's it going to look like on your arm or the arm of the person you're thinking of for a gift? If it's a small to medium wrist, probably a small watch. If it's medium to large or you want to make a statement, probably a large watch. Okay? When you decide between those two, that cuts the pool in half of the watches you're going to look at that are round. Now the last question. Do you prefer this rubberized TPU silicone type of a strap? Or are you after the dressy leather type of a strap? Do you think your watch might be getting wet? I don't mean dunking it in water. I mean, are you going to go out and sweat with it? Are you going to do exercise? Could you get caught in the rain? Are you bad at washing your hands and splashing everywhere? If you are, I'm going to recommend you stay away from the leather. This tends to get wet and, leather doesn't hold up too well over time in water. In that case, you'd want something like this. But if you're one of the elite Washington, D.C. crowd and you're making a fashion statement, you probably want to be in leather, right? So think about how you're going to use it. Both ways? You may need 2. 2 small ones? 2 big ones? Who knows? Anyway, those are the criteria, and here's your chart. Here's everything in detail. Here's everything synopsized. How to choose your Android watch. If you're looking for a square one, you've decided that's what you like, these are the model numbers to focus on. Now, the easy thing to do at this point, you can tune out and just go to your browser in YouTube. In the little search box, you can put in SmartWatchTicks, all one word, space, DM98 or X9A. It'll pull up the video review, and if we have any other update reviews to it, like a full review or firmware flashing or whatever, they'll all show up too. Probably the easiest way to make sure you get the coverage of the watch that you're interested in. I'm going to be parading them through and showing them to you briefly, but for each of them, there's a full-on, maybe up to an hour long, yeah, I know, I talk a lot, video review that you can go into detail. So, SmartWatchTicks, space, Q1, D6, DM98, you get the picture. Once you've decided that you don't want the square watch, but you're interested in round watches, now you got two categories, each of which have two categories. You got it figured out, right? You want a small watch with a leather band? These are the model numbers that are currently being sold that we have reviews on. You prefer the non-leather, more sports band? That's those guys. Same thing applies for large. Large meaning the watch itself is going to be a big diameter. Now, I picked this one, the i3, because it's about the largest you're ever going to find. The screen is the same, 1.39 inches with 400 by 400 pixel AMOLED resolution in the screen. They've all got it. The difference is, how do they manage the bezel and the casing and the strapping and the thinness? What does it all look like? And that's why we have to show them to you. This is about the biggest one I could find, so that I could really contrast it with a small one. When you're looking at small, same thing. It's about 1.3 inches, and it's usually 320 by 320 pixels. Some are as little as 240 by 240, but be careful of those because they're kind of not quite as sharp, and some of the Android apps don't really render well in that small of a size. But 320 by 320 in a 1.3 inch watch format. This one I picked because the buttons are recessed, so it looks actually the smallest possible. And I'm showing it to you in silver, but I got it in black, and black will make it even look smaller still. So if you want the smallest looking Android watch possible, go for something 1.3 inches, one or two buttons, as recessed as possible in black. If you want to make a big fashion statement, you may be able to find the i3, but look at some of the other IQI ones, the i4 and so forth. Anyway, they're all on the list, they're all here, and we're going to go through them. We're going to start with the square ones, parade those through, tell you some of the differences, things to look for, and then move on. When we're talking about square watches, the two classic ones have been the number 1 D6 and the Finau Q1, and here they are. They're both attractive, they're both really great. They got a plastic bottom, they've got little charging area here that you hook up to, and this one, the Q1, has the TPU, as we've seen, type of a band, and the D1 actually has a leather band. Oh, and it's in there tight. I find leather hard to work with, actually. I personally prefer the other kind of a band, but there you go. That's the D6. So let's mark them off the chart. Q1 and D6 we've shown you. I know it's brief, I haven't turned them on or anything, but remember there's reviews up on these, you can learn more. Keep these in mind, and now I'm going to switch you over to kind of the next level of these, which are these. All right. Now, not all of these are Android, most of them are. There's the K1. Notice the K1 looks a lot like the Q1, and on the big chart you're going to see they're basically interchangeable. Okay, so that's another one, the K1 over here. And then we've got the X01S and the X9A. These are a bit larger square kind, and they've got a camera on the side, both of them do, and got different stuff going for them. They're a bit bulkier on your arm. These are a little bit more classy looking. The GD19, that's a tethering watch. It just happens to be on the paint roll. That's not an Android watch, but it's kind of nice. It's got a blue, a rubbery kind of a band. Looks a little smaller than these. This does the tethering kind of telephone calls, but it's not Android. We're talking about Android here. But if you want to know more about it, do the whole Google thing and look up GD19, SmartWatchTicks. Okay, that covers the X9A and the X01S, right? Okay, check these out now. You want to talk about big or small? The LEM4 and the DM98. I got to show you one of these at least. These are big. These are really monster. The screens are twice as wide as they normally are. The bands are huge. They're the TPU kind. And when you put this on, it looks like that. I mean, it's not that bad when you really get to it. It's a long thing. And it goes along with the arm, so it doesn't like stick the other way, But it is a rather large watch. Whew, I'm sweaty, which is why I like the TPU kind. Between the LEM4 and the DM98, they're basically identical, but I do want to tell you this with regard to these two. If you're deciding between them, go with the DM98. The internal memory partition is better placed on this one. You can get more apps actually installed and useful storage space on the DM98 than the LEM4. Other than that, they're pretty much identical, but you really are restricted on the active, usable internal memory on the LEM4. It's a quirk that has to do with Android 4.4. You don't find that on a lot of the other watches, but if you're going for one of these big ones, that's what I would recommend. What are these other two sitting over here? Well, they're little tethering watches too. They're square. One's in a nice steel band. One's in a nice TPU with stitching, so it emulates leather. But check this out. They actually come out and become little teeny phones. Yeah, you could hold that up to your ear and make a phone call. No, you can't put Android apps on them. They're not Android watches. They're tethering watches. But I'm a big fan of having a good Android watch, round or square, and then having a couple of little tethering watches too. It really makes a difference. All right, that's the LEM4 and the DM98. DM98, LEM4, the S6. Okay, the S6 is the same as the D6, except there's no SIM card in here for making phone calls. This is a standalone Android watch. You have a capability of putting a SIM card in if you take the back off, and you could make and receive phone calls. But the S6 is a little bit less money than the D6, and it's stripped of having that little SIM card capability, so you're not able to make any kind of phone calls with the S6. Then we got the Z01 and the Z80. Well, the Z80 is right here, and it's got its little charging dock, and I haven't showed you the middle-sized one, so let's open up the TPU band on this one and put it on. That's what this will look like. It's kind of between the Q1 and the D6, and not quite as bulky and big as the other square ones we looked at. But it's a nice one. The thing is, on all of these, the Z80 and the X01S and the X9A, these all kind of have limited memory when you look at the overall chart. The Z01 I don't have yet, but it's going to be in this kind of a format, but it's going to be a pump up in memory. Check the big chart. By the way, did I mention check the show notes, because I'm going to have this entire table on there that you can download in a spreadsheet format, so you can make annotations or update it or change it or whatever you'd like to do. When you look in here, you're going to find the Z80 is over here with 0.5 gigabyte and 4 gigabytes of memory. It's at the very bottom of the chart. But the Z01 is coming out with 1 gigabyte, 8 gigabyte. It's the largest memory in a square watch like that. So check out the review once I get that one in, because right now I would start saying this might be the best square watch out there. Okay, we've covered all the square ones. Am I going too fast? I hope not, because now we're going to spick it up a bit as we move into the round ones. Oh my goodness. Here's how it's laid out. Across the top, the column headings we have, in addition to the brand and model number, I have all these categories of internal memory that go from the latest flagship 2 gigabyte RAM, 16 gigabytes onboard total memory, down to 1 gigabyte 16, 1 gigabyte 8, then it drops to half a gigabyte of RAM and 8 gigabytes of ROM, or actually it's storage. Everybody reminds me it's not really ROM. And half a gigabyte's 4 gigabytes. So the smallest configuration and the ones that came out initially are in this column. So check marks here have lightweight memory. Check marks here have bumped up twice the storage, but they still have only a half a gigabyte worth of RAM for the processors. Now, an issue with that is until you get up to 1 gigabyte of RAM, you're not going to be able to do the offline speech-to-text recognition from Google. And if you're trying to peck away at the little keyboard, that's sometimes hard. Video down here on memory that I was telling you about kind of goes over that. So if you don't think you're going to use that and that feature and you're looking for a watch that's relatively inexpensive, then check the ones that have check marks in these two columns. But these three are the more flagship, newer models with lots more bells and whistles, and they're going to cost more. And they start at 1 gigabyte of RAM. They go 8, 16, and then the flagship ones bump it up another gigabyte to 2 gigabytes of RAM. Now, RAM is what the processor's using when it's running. And on your phone, you might have 4 or 8 or goodness knows how many gigabytes. On your computer, you might have 32. And if you're doing virtual reality, well, wow, it's out there. But you're talking a watch. I honestly haven't seen a difference in a 2 gigabyte over 1 gigabyte RAM on a quad-core processor, except that maybe there's more drain on the battery. So think about whether you need a flagship model with 2 gigabytes or whether you'd be happy with 1 gigabytes. But anyway, you look at it, you're getting 16 gigabytes of storage, plenty for songs, even videos, whatever you'd like to do. That middle road one of 1 gigabyte, 8 gigabyte is a good starter watch that can do all of it and gives you relatively good amount of memory to play with on board storage. But if you want to bump up, you go to that category. So I would incline to recommend, if you're looking for a good Android smartwatch to get into that's going to last a while, that you pick ones that have an X in one of these two columns, the 1 gigabyte total RAM column. Not as high as 2 and not down as low as a half. Then you got screen resolution. Most of them come in at 400 by 400 pixel AMOLED screens. Some are 320 by 320 and lower ones are 240 by 240. Careful about the 240 ones. That's so small that a lot of the Android apps don't run right on it and stuff spills off the screens and layouts don't look exactly right in the apps. 320 by 320, I'd say, is about the lowest you want to go if you're going to be thinking about doing quite a bit of app work with your watch. 400 by 400 is really good. It's standard in most of them, but it eats more power. So if you're really looking to conserve power, try to find something that's 320 by 320 with a high battery, which gets us to this column. This is the overall capacity of the battery in milliamp hours. They run 350 up to, wow, there's one in here for 900 down here. But usually you're going to find them coming in at 400 to 450. Balance that with your screen resolution and your RAM, and you can start to play with with battery life. The lower this, the higher that, and so forth, the better likelihood you're going to get good battery results. Now, I don't list all the Android versions on here, but most of them are Android 5.1 or fewer, a little bit lower. None are higher, but that's where you're at in terms of overall Android. Some have a camera. They have a check mark here. All of them have buttons, and I've listed how many there are. 1, 2, or 3 buttons. Haven't seen any more than that, but this category shows you the buttons on the side. There's a little comments thing because some of them are square watches. We'll cover them. Some have micro SD cards. They don't have a lot of onboard memory. See, well, though that one's got a little bit more, but they have the ability to add a micro SD card and other comments. And then this one is similar. That means that this particular watch, the X5 Plus, is similar to the Lympho LEM5. And the Lympho LEM5 is similar to the X5 Plus. Now, I haven't got all these corollaries. This is like playing concentration, you know, and seeing which card looks like which card. I don't have them all, but I have some of them. If I can flesh out more, the chart will be more robust when you download it. But for the sake of the video, I've got quite a few of them in there. Popcorn's ready. Go get your popcorn because we are going to begin with Finau. Finau over here. Finau is the company. And they make all these different watches that are currently in the marketplace. They started out with the old original X1, X3, and X5. You still can buy an original X5 that has 0.5 gigabyte, 4 gigabyte of memory. But you notice they bumped up the Plus to be double that, 1/8. And the X5 Air is the flagship, 2 gigabyte, 16 gigabyte. So we're going to take a look at the X5s. We're going to take a look at this X3 Plus. And then we're going to get into these guys. So let's grab our highly sophisticated paint roller. Yeah, right from Ace, that you can strap watches on. I mean, what else am I going to do? I have so many. And here's the Finau lineup of the first ones we're going to take a look at. There's that X3 Plus, and then the X5 line, the original, the Plus, and the Air. Hey, Cal, come on over. It's your turn. I'm going to pull off the X3 Plus, show you that it's got a special dock. The dock has the cutouts for 2 buttons, and you're not going to be able to substitute it for anything else. All right, make sure you get yourself an extra dock if you can for all of these that use docks, because you want one at work and you want one in case the original breaks. This has got a TPU smooth silicone, I don't know the terminology, a rubber kind of a band. It's got a nice feel to it. It's not leather, so it's going to be a little better with water probably, but it's not going to be as dressy. Now, we're not turning these on. We're not going into reviews. This is sort of like an overview of the horses at the, horse race, right? Just to tell you a little bit about them. If you're interested, SmartWatchTicks space X3 Plus in Google or in YouTube should get you to this review to go into detail. Why I like this one is because it's round and the buttons are subdued. There's 2 of them on the side. They're soft and it works as a woman's watch if necessary. This is the smaller diameter. Cal's going to show you that in a second. And the screen is 360 by 360, so it's the resolution matches the size of the watch nicely. And as far as a really good Android watch with a metal back, one of the best bills in the marketplace, the X3 Plus would be it. So we're going to open this little thing up. We're going to give you an overall diameter. I don't have this in my charts here. If I have time, I'll put them all the way in. But you can write them down if you can see them in the thing. It's coming in, am I in inches? Yeah, let's switch it back to millimeters because everybody operates in that for watch diameters. Okay, I'm just getting a snug fit. Coming in at 46, I'd say, 46 millimeters. The band itself, which is not removable, mind you, but the flat part of it, the main part, if you want to change out the clasps, for example, some people do that. The actual main body of it is coming in at 20. Oh, don't give me 21.5. Okay, it is 21.5, 21.7. I don't know if you need a 21 or 22, if it even comes that way, but there's your bandwidth, about 21.6. Probably you'd need 22. Metal clasp. It's a nice stretchy band. Personally, I like these kind over the leather ones because they tend to last longer. It's pretty flexible. Antennas are in the bands. Don't bend them too much, and you cannot change them. Did I say that already? I think I did. Hey, you can't change the bands. Oh, I'm almost forgetting the thickness. Let's see how thick we are. Squeezing it pretty good. 13.0, 0.1. About 13. Anyway. There you go. Anything more you want to? Of course. We've got to weigh it, right? After all, that's why I got the scale. Okay, it's showing you 0. I'm not going to put that charger on it, but the whole thing comes in at 82 grams. 82 grams. Hopefully it's not too washed out for you to see. With the charger, Oh, you know what? The magnet's pushing it off. 93.6. Okay, so 82 grams for the X3 Plus. You got its diameter, and you got all the specs on it. Now, these three should be pretty much the same thing, other than a bump up in memory. So let's pull off the X5. Let's take a look at the band. Oh, can you believe we're going to go through 40 of these? You might have to get extra popcorn. Okay, it's really in here. And it is like a genuine leather-ish band. I guess it doesn't say genuine leather. But be careful getting this wet, okay? Leather tends to absorb the water and swell. And of course, as you use it, you're going to get a break-in pattern where you actually clasp it on a regular basis. And they're not removable or replaceable. So if the band goes, I don't know. We don't know anybody that shipped them out anywhere to get it replaced. So be careful with that. Anyway, the X5 Basic Original we saw from here is they're all 400 by 400 pixel, 3 buttons, the same battery in them. Everything's the same except for the memory. 0.5 gig, 4 gig, that bumps up to 1 and 8, that bumps up to 2 and 16 between the original, the Plus, and the Air. All right? So 3 buttons on here. Nice blue little insert thing on some of them. This is the silver one. We've got the black ones. You've seen those. You might want to shop by band color as well. And what does it come in as weight-wise? I'm getting 83.8? 84. Okay, 84 grams for the X5. And for the X5 Plus without the base unit. 84.3. Is my scale that far off? 84.3. This one gave us 85. 83.9. 83.8. I only buy the top quality from China, let me tell you. Are you zeroed? Hair zeroes it. 84.3. Well, they're awful close. With the little base, we're looking at 92.5, all right, 92.5 grams. The base on this now is different. It doesn't have any cutouts for the buttons. It's a little flat cookie thing. These are easy to get because there's several different watches that use this. So this is better, actually, overall than the X3 Plus if you're going to shop on bands. This is a little bit more customized. This kind, whoa, just simply flops on it. I mean, it just slides in magnetically, and it works on any of them. Totally interchangeable, easy to use. USB hooks up to it, charges everything just fine. Metal backs on all of these watches, the X5 line, no matter which one you get. It's only a difference in memory, folks, and price, I guess, onto the capabilities. As far as look and feel, watch the reviews if you want to see if there's any other specifics you'd like to learn about. Okay, so measurement-wise, this is a bit bigger watch overall, and we're going to measure it from the edge to the tip of the big button to get 51.2, roughly. Could probably call it that, 51.3. If you get to an area where there isn't a button, the actual diameter of just the screen or the whole casing itself, 48.3. And the band on this one is coming in at 19.4, 19.5. And what about the thickness here? We're coming in at 12.13, 13.0, 13. The Q3 and the Q3 Plus now sport a leather band, and the difference on this one is the back is plastic. You notice that. Now, one thing you've seen on all the Final watches, there's no cover to put your SIM card in. You have to take the back off to get access to them. And this does use a charging dock, which I don't happen to have right here with it right now. And this is the Q3, but it's just like the Q3 Plus. Now lastly, the Q7, Q7 Plus on the list of the FiNow watches I've got combined here with these other two, the Lympho LEF17 and the S1, or otherwise known as YYS1, because, well, they all use the same charging dock, which is a weird little thing. Look at this. It's got kind of an angle on it, a curve, and a locating pin. And all three of these watches use exactly the same. So I've grouped them together, and we're going to talk about them together here because I think they're pretty much the same size. On the back, it's got a really big compartment that you take off to get into the SIM area, and I'm pretty sure a micro SD card. Is that on here? Yeah, micro SD is part of the Q7, Q7 Plus. You got the 2 buttons and camera on here, and a nice bezel and leather band, whereas the LF17, that's down here in Lympho, called a LF17 or LEF17, sometimes referred to, and it's got a different appearance to it. Oh, I'm messing up my whole thing there, but look at this. It's got kind of a two-tone appearance, an interesting bezel going on. It's got a non-leather band, got the same cover, same connection, and the same micro SIM card that's in here as well. So it's pretty much the same style of watch, just from a different company. So what do you like, leather band or TPU? This one has a camera, this one has 1 button. Well, there are more differences, and that brings up then the YYS1. When we look at that one, we find yet a different kind of leather band, not the patent leather, but the soft kind with stitching in it. We've got that same plate for the micro SD card, charging dock. This one is very similar here. You got the same buttons and cameras. So the Q7 and S1 look very similar, but the bezels are totally different. And there's probably other subtle differences as you get into them. Once again, if you want to look at the video reviews of any of these, put in the term SmartWatchTicks in either just right in your Google or in YouTube, and then put the number right after it, LF17, and that'll bring up a list of videos of which one of them will be our review of that watch, and you can compare all of these. Let's catch our breath. Okay, so we've looked at all of these so far. Small round leather band and non-leather band, and a few of the large round leather band watches. You should probably look for the type of band that you want on your smartwatch first, and decide leather versus non-leather to be the driving factor as to which category of large or small round Android watch you're thinking of buying. So you can limit your choice to a dozen or so or less. Also, you probably notice the charts constantly changing. Different chart looks the same, but I keep adding things to it. So you might see some different things appearing if you're making note of the charts. Now, in terms of the big chart, the one that we've been going against, I've also circled on here that we've covered all of the FiNow watches, and one of these has launched us into looking at a couple of other ones here and here. And the green ones, of course, were all of the square watches. So we're going to move on to another category of company, the company number 1, DT number 1. Look at the ones that we haven't looked at there. And the reason being, I'm going to throw another curveball at you, is that as far as Android watches go, the FiNow watches and the number 1 watches tend to have firmware that implements Android 5.1, even the older 4.3. The style of how they do their Android firmware is the same, and it's different than everybody else. That is especially true when it comes to custom watch faces. If you're installing watch faces on these Android watches, you had to use a technique that was specialized for watches made by FiNow and number 1. If you had a Kingwear or an IQI or most of the Lymphos, it was different. And that's all resolving itself, and it's all coming back to where everybody's starting to use the basic system that Finaw and Number 1 used. But because of that, I'm dividing it up so you can see the Finaw watches and the Number 1 watches up front and get those over with. Then we look at everybody else. Okay, let's take a look at the Number 1 watches. I've got some here on a paint roll, and they're basically two kinds. There's the D5 and the D7. Now, the D5 has been the workhorse. This is what pretty much launched this channel. I mean, this is the one that kicked it off big time. Had a couple before that, but this is the one, the D5 original, that I spent so much time on. There's dozens and dozens of videos on apps and everything, and they were all done on this very original D5. Then they bumped up the memory to the D5 Plus, and one that's missing right here is the D5 Pro. And if you look at the chart, you'll see that the D5 was the limited 0.5 gigabyte and 4 gigabyte RAM. Then the D5 Plus doubled both of those to a full gigabyte and 8 gigabytes. And the new D5 Pro, which hasn't been reviewed yet, is 1 gigabyte, 16 gigabytes. It's not pumped all the way up to the 2 gigabyte category, but it's a good solid 1 gigabyte watch with 16 gigabytes of memory. So we're looking at the D5 Pro, the D5 Plus, and the D5 in this format. And they all come with a leather band and a charging cradle. And this charging cradle's magnetic, and it's a specialized one. And as you can see, the back of this watch, just like on the high-end Finaw watches, is metal. And you have to take the back off in order to get in here to change the, or put in a SIM card. And the curved nature of this aligns with the dock. And let me say something about docks. Okay, here's a good example. Look carefully at that. You see the third pin over is a little low? These are like spring pins, and they're pretty delicate. If you lose connection with the middle pins, you don't get data transfer to a computer. If you lose the outer ones, you don't get charging. So the docks are kind of delicate on all of the watches that have docks. You're going to notice the newer ones, like when we get in here to the D7 and D7W, they are different. Everybody else is gravitating to these 4 big gold dots and a little wire. You've seen many times the little connector wire that magnetically couples on here. So no more docks, only charging wires. That's the wave of the future. These were the initial introductions in smartwatches from Asia. And this technology is going out primarily because the docks are unreliable. So something to consider if you're looking at going into the, come back here you, the D5 line, either the original or the Plus or the Pro, right? Okay, so they have leather bands. They have one button, and I'm getting kind of tired of measuring everything, so with your permission to move things along, I'm going to measure the band, because that's a thing that people might actually care about, 19.3, if you wanted to put a clasp on this thing, and the thickness, because that's another issue. People are constantly wanting to know how thick is something, and this is coming out at 12.8. That's going to be the same on all of them. The casing hasn't changed. I'm not going to measure every one of them. However, I will say the D7 and D7W, of course, are different from the D5s. This is coming in same 19.5. So the leather bands, see that even says genuine leather, are pretty much the same width that way. And this has got an interesting raised bezel on it that adds a little to the thickness, bringing it up 14.3. Get it right in the very middle there. And the edge, yeah, 14.5, somewhere in that neighborhood for the D5 or the D7W. The D7 number 1's had some problems with. This is an Android watch, and they used a different, I'm not sure, company, process, everything. But it's had some problems. They're working on getting the issues out of it, but it's not one of the shining ones I would recommend unless you really like the way they've done the bezel. It's not rotating. None of these rotate, by the way. This is the brown leather band option that you can get. The D5 lines seem to be a way more stable and way more better built with the metal back and everything. But the D7 is a more recent watch, and you can see on the chart that they're coming in at 1 gigabyte, 8 gigabyte. The D7W is the same as the D7, but without the SIM card capability. And it's got that really low 240 by 240 screen, but 500 milliamp hour battery. Now they have NFC built into them, but it only will unlock smart locks. So I don't know how many of you would use that feature. But the combination of a big battery, a tiny resolution screen, small size is supposedly going to make this a very long-lasting, long-life watch. But we haven't seen that in field tests. So check carefully about the D7 if you're thinking of that line. The D5, like I say, has been around a long, long time. It's solid, it's stable, and it ranks right in there with the FiNow watches as good quality watches. All right, let's mark all that up and move on. Well, it looks like we've just about covered all the small Android watches, so let's knock out the ones that are left. First of all, there's only one listed as a leather band, the LEF2, but I also have it listed here as non-leather band because I didn't know at the time. Nobody's seen this one yet, and I finally got confirmation that it is going to be a TPU kind of band. And if you want to read up on the LEF2, go to limfo.com and put in LEF2 in the search box, and you can see their new, yet-to-be-released ladies' size smartwatch. It's an Android that is going to be hitting the markets, I'm not sure before the holidays, but shortly after probably. Nobody has it in stock yet, so I can't even show it to you. But pop on over to Limfo if you want to see a picture, because they have it on their site now. And it's a non-leather band. Okay, that gets us to the LES2. Now let's see what we got on the LES2. Well, Mrs. Ticks has the LES2, so I'm going to show you again the X3, because the LES2, where is it, is a lot like the original X3 with the 2 buttons and the charging dock and all of that stuff. And it has the non-leather band. So Limfo, if you're over there, you can take a look at the LES2. It'll look somewhat similar to the X3 line. Okay, that knocks out that one. Now we get to the fun, interesting stuff to finish things out with the ZG PAX watches. The S99, I don't have on this list. I just noticed that it is available, I believe, through GearBest, through their Hong Kong warehouse. It's really limited. Is that the S99 I'm thinking of? Anyway, check it out. The S99. There's an S99. There's an S99A, which I'm going to show you. There's also an S99, I think, B and C. And they're all different and strange. So, oh yeah, the S99. The S99 I've got right here. Again, I'm not sure if it's available. This is, notice the bezel, okay? The bezel on the S99, it's got a little charging dock right here, speaker on the side, the non-leather band, and the S99A, which I guess was also called the X9A at one time. Anyway, I got a sticker on that. The S99A, the bump up from the S99, the only difference, I think, is the bezel. Doesn't rotate, but it's got little markings on the side. Still got the same charging dock, stuff like that. And it's got more like a Kingware type bezel than the original. Same TPU style of band. Everything else about it is the same. So when we look on the chart at the S99A, you see it's got a 0.5 gigabyte and 8 gigabytes, 360 by 360. With a camera on the side. Yeah, there's a little camera on the side. 2 buttons, 450 milliamp hour battery. In the updated chart, I'll also have the original S99A on here. The new S99C yet to be released, 1 gigabyte, 16 gigabytes. Looking for getting a review of that one in here. And that's your full-size Android. So, like I said, there's a lot of different S99 evolutions, and they're not all the same. These two are really close, but then it's changing. So, the S99 from ZGPAX rounds out our small ones. The C, by the way, is the larger one. That's going into a bigger 400 by 400 pixel, 1.39 inch, as far as I can tell. So just the basic S99 and S99A you can count on as being the small Android watches. Okay, one more that I'm going to add back into the chart that I don't have, because you guys should see this one. Don't forget the heart rate monitor, right? You remember this one? The Blitz? Yeah, the Z Blaze Blitz. This is the residual from the teardown that we did. And the reason I'm putting the Blitz back on is that's the one that's like a very limited availability in a Hong Kong warehouse somewhere on a shelf. Dust it off and order it from GearBest. I just saw it online. Maybe a couple of other places have it. But the whole thing about the Blitz is for so long, this has been the only 100% IP68 waterproof smartwatch. And it really was. It really works. It's got a camera. It was nice. If you want a waterproof Android smartwatch, the Z Blaze Blitz, which fits into the small, non-leather category, okay, of watches, is probably still your best choice. Going to talk about a couple of others, at least one more that professes to be waterproof coming up. But when anybody asks, I always refer them to the Blitz. So I want to include it on this list, even though it's an older watch. Its technology, okay, it's not on here, but its memory is the lowest memory, and it's old technology, but it's still, for a camera in a waterproof watch, it's probably your best bet. I'm going to clean up the mess, and then we'll move on. Okay, I've taken some time to revise the list and updated it with the new additions that have come in, like the Blitz I've got on here now. And we are going to move ahead with the Kingwear line. Now, the Kingwear watches, if you've been watching this channel recently, you found out that Kingwear is unveiling an update to their firmware eventually, and their new watches, of course, will ship with it installed, that is going to allow the Android smartwatch made by Kingwear, and another one called the W1, the W1, chart's just too long, to actually be able to make Bluetooth telephone calls. Up until now, you had to put a SIM card in your watch, and that's how you would make calls. But there's a new edition coming out, and we just reviewed the W1, the W1. Okay, we're all talking large round watches, so I'll just keep that segment on here. And this watch has that installed with that capability. So be sure to watch the latest review on it's called the All-Call W1. Let's take a look at it. It's right here. This is a nice watch. It looks like it should have removable bands, but they're not actually. They do still have antennas in it, but they've gotten really creative from the KW99. So this is like the newer flagship, 99. And then there's the KW98, which is this one. And these we'll talk about in just a second. And then there's the original, and still one of the best-selling watches, the KW88. So let's start here. I've got it in gold and a brushed dark metal color. They have the TPU kind of a band to them. And when you open it up, you notice characteristic of the Kingwear is they have a SIM card opening that you need a screwdriver to get into. The charging dock or connector, it's not a dock on this watch, not like the Finau or the number one. Your heart rate monitor and so forth. One camera, one button, low amount of memory because it's an older watch. And since some of you might want to put a different kind of strap on it, it's coming in 23.5 for the width of the band. Okay, that's the Kingwear KW88. Then the KW98 took a whole different spin. We got this original prototype in, then I got this commercial one in that you could take a look at. This does have leather. Notice that one does not. It's got a very porous band to it in the KW88. In the KW98, definitely a genuine leather band. You can even see the outline where the antenna is in here. Yes, they're not removable. One button, no camera, speaker, and just a dress-up version of it. Now, others have come out with the matching similar type of watch. Look at this, identical. Two of them, the LEF one from Limfo and the Talk T one from Makibes. And I just now remembered this one. I don't have it on the list yet, so that's going to be another revision to the revision when we add that in. But in terms of the KW98 line, all these are similar. Check the chart to see if there's any differences in memory. And as far as the bands go on this one, it's a little bit narrower, 19.0. Don't want to squeeze it too tight. Yeah, about 19. It's a thin band. Oh, I'm getting 19 and a half there. Seems that all these measurements are coming in at about 0.5 millimeter. So this is that one. And then the KW99 we talked about, its band is 21.5 for that one. Okay, so on the chart, in the large bands, you see that we've got the leather KW98 and KW99, and the W1 is leather, and this has the flip-off SIM connector. No screws required on the 99 or the W1. And the 98 has a lift-off type of a cover. So it was only the original KW88 that had the screw-on connector. Still, we want to make sure we cover that. So those are all the leather ones, and then the Kingwear KW88, the original, is a non-leather band. You with me so far? We're working our way through the list now of the large, round Android watches. All of these are 1.39 inches in diameter, 400 by 400 pixel screens. Okay. Let's jump in on the Limfo LEM5 and the LEM5 Pro. Now, they're here on the chart. You see the LEM5 from Limfo is a 1 gigabyte, 8 gigabyte watch. And if you look up here at the X5 Plus, it's also the same. Now, I'm going to show you both of those side by side in a moment. The Limfo LEM5 Pro now is bumped up and doubled everything from 1 gig to 2 and from 8 to 16. And in between, we got this new LEM6 that none of us have seen yet. That's going to be a hot watch. Look for it, 1 gigabyte, 16 gigabyte, supposedly with removable band capability. But it's not here, so we won't see it in this video. So let's look at the LEM5, the LEM5 Pro, and the X5 Plus. The into here are pretty much identical. They're the same watch. Look at the bodies. The same casing, exactly the same. Everything, even the software and the firmware is almost identical as well. They handle watch faces exactly the same way. That one's got some little designer inserts on the buttons. I think that one, no, those didn't have them. But they're pretty much the same watch. The only difference really is in the band. So folks, once again, I'm telling you, choose your watch by your band once you know what you're looking for. These are the larger Android watches, 1.39 inch, but the bands are different. The buckles are slightly different. The Limfo has a little bit dressier sport leather, and the Finau has your patent leather, or your regular leather. It's kind of a duller leather than a patent leather, but they're both leather bands, but they're completely different design. Now the other watch, the Limfo LEM5 Pro, This is rather unique in that the band itself, which is similar to the other Lympho band, with gray instead of orange, and the case for the Pro is in this cobalt blue. It's the only way you can get this color. It's the only time this color has ever appeared. So if you're really looking for a hot watch, you like the quality and design of the solid metal back that you find on the Finau X5 line, and you want something dressier with flagship 2GB, 16GB design, then the LEM5 Pro might be calling you. Interesting. Now, as far as measurements go on all of these, I'm just going to do a quick one of the band for you because that's the difference between these two. Otherwise, the size is the same. 19.2. Does that look about right? 19.1. Whereas the X5 Plus itself is 19.5. I'm saying probably my squeezing capability and the fine the stitching and whatnot, it's pretty much the same, probably around a 19.5 or 19, whatever kind of a clasp you'd be looking for. And the overall thickness should be about the same. If I get it exactly right. In here, 13.5 and, well, 13.0 we're seeing on the 12.7, 12.9, 13.0. Now there's a little piece of plastic still on the back of this. In fact, it's wanting to come off, so let's take it off first and give another measurement just to make sure. All right, 12.9, it's 13. Okay, so they're identical, the Pro, then the regular, and the X5. Let's catch up. In the large round Android watches with leather bands, we did the LEF1, we just looked at the LEM5, the LEM5 Pro. We've got everybody except the Y3. So let's cover the Y3. Here it is. The Y3 is a really interesting band. It comes to us from, where are we? From Lympho. The Lympho Y3 is one of two bands or two watches that we have an edge-to-edge screen. It means that the actual lit-up part of the screen goes edge-to-edge. I'll show you that in a minute. All the other watches seem to have a black bezel around it. There's the regular bezel, then there's a little black circle, and then the actual screen starts inside from there. Tends to make the watch look a little smaller, but for this particular one and the Microwear H2, it's different. Show you that in a minute. Okay, leather band on this one. Very stiff leather band. 3 buttons, but different than the X Plus or the Lympho in terms of size. You see, it's the smaller type of a watch. It doesn't have that really big diameter and the 1.39 inch diameter screen. So it's actually a smaller overall looking watch, right? Let's check it out. Let's switch this over to inches. Let's get in here and see if we can measure right from the edge of the black screen. About there. Okay, look, 1.40. Basically 1.39. Now, without moving anything, I'm going to bring over the X5 Plus, which is also a 1.39 inch screen. But look, I have to open this up to get the black part in there, like so. So the actual black screen is 1.50. The difference on this thing is, that's not turning on. Okay. The difference on this thing is that we have the black boundary in there, and the actual screen itself, 1.39 inches, is going to be subdued on larger watches. The net effect is that you have the same size screen in what obviously looks like a smaller watch. Okay, now check these two out as they boot up. Look at this. Look at how fine that is right up to the edge. Same thing for this one. Now, let's compare that with the X5 line. You see the black border all the way around? You see that's missing from here and there? Exactly. These fill all the way to the edge, and it makes it look really, really nice. Very cool, huh? Yeah, the Y3 and the H2 have edge-to-edge 1.39-inch screens. And because these two have the special screen on them, let's get some measurements. 15.5 roughly wide. And the diameter now, with the button included on the Y3, is 49, okay? And by itself, the overall diameter of the outer part of the screen with the edges, let's go from here to here. Come on, Y3, move off. 44.1 we're getting. We got the thickness. We can get the band. Band is 19.5. Now, contrasting or comparing that leather band with the TPU band, right, of the H2, the other one with that nice screen. 21.8 on this one with a thickness, gonna get the heart rate monitor in this as well, of 15.2, and its outer diameter from edge to edge, because it's got that big bump for the camera, is 50, okay? And kind of in a narrow area would be beside the button 45.5 roughly. Okay, so yeah, the H2 and the Y3 with the full 400 by 400 1.39-inch screen and the overall measurements. We've looked at the Y3 then and finished all the leather band large round ones, and we also just now took a look at the H2. How about the H1? The H1 is the other one that's made by Microware, and it's got some special things going for it. Here it is, the H1. It's got a really big band, and look how pliable it is. That's because the band is removable. Yeah, you can actually take these very strange screws out, remove the band. Just look at the review. Remember, you can put in SmartWatchTicks, all one word, and then space H1. I don't know where my sticker is. H1 for this particular one, or JM01, exactly the same watch, but an earlier version of it, and get some information on it. Because it's a really big one, and we just did those other ones. Let's compare size. 50.5 millimeters diameter with a thickness of 16, okay, and an overall band thickness, if you want a clasp on this one, of 25.9. What can I tell you? It's waterproof. Yeah, it's waterproof. Removable bands. It's got a lot going for it. Unfortunately, it's got an older operating system and small amount of memory. When you look at the H1, right here, it's a 0.5 gigabyte, 4 gigabyte, and it doesn't show on here, but it's the Android 4.4. So a good start, but bumping this up with a better processor and more memory would definitely be the next generation. And that's everything from Microware, the H1 and the H2. Oh, I just found my stickers, and what I was telling you is the H1 is actually the JM01, but they're identical watches. Also found a brand new H1. Going to do another little review with this one shortly. The H1, the JM01, same memory, same everything. The JM01 came out first, and then the H1, but they're made actually both by Microtech. So same thing, same dimensions, identical watches, and we can now check off the JM01 from our list. So let's take a look at this grouping now. Let's go to the IQI because there's a lot of interesting stuff, totally different type of technology, and different kinds of watches. Here they are. Strikingly different than these, right? Look at this. There's the i4, sometimes called the i4 Plus. The early edition of the i4 had the lowest memory, and then they bumped it up a little bit. Let's look at that chart. And became the IQI, i4, i4 Plus. The first one was 4 gigabytes. Then it went in the i4 to the half a gigabyte range and 8 gigabytes total. Then the i4 Pro and the i4 Air. Both are flagship phones with 2 gigabytes of RAM and 16 gigabytes of onboard memory, but they're different. We'll take a look at that. So, popping them off, you see that the design is the TPU style of a band. It's not the leather band. 2 screws hold the cover on the back, charger and heart rate monitor, and 1 single button, a little microphone hole, speakers, and that's about it. The growth up into the i4 Pro was basically exact same design, just a little bit of a memory bump up, okay? Then they went to the i4 Air. Now, the i4 Air is different. This one has a button and a camera in it. So basically, they added a camera. And when you check our reviews, remember, you can just put in SmartWatchTicks, all one word, space i4, and you'll get all the i4 related videos. We actually open this one up, I believe, to show you that it's pretty much identical electronics inside. It's just there's some padding in here where the camera should be. So you're using the same overall module. You've got the same kind of a screen display. This happens to be their albino white. I gave it that name. But you can see the antennas in here inside the bands. Bands are not removable, of course. But the difference is pretty much the camera in the i4 Air. However, once you start to go into this realm, you start to cross over into some other watches like the Blaze Thor. Notice, of course, it's got a charging dock. We'll talk about that. The Blaze Thor layout is the same. Camera, microphone, a little different shape in the button, but otherwise, it's very, very similar. 1 screw in the bottom instead of 2 for the cover for the SIM card, but the charging cable, everything's the same. The bands are different. It's a 2-tone TPU style, whereas this one was single. They're all the same for the i4 line. And it comes with a charging dock, or you could actually use a wire. This is really rare. This charging dock fits right there. You hook your USB into it, and I'm pretty sure it would work on the others. Let's see. I don't know. I've never tried it. Oh no, I guess it won't. There's not a magnetic coupling to it. Slight magnetic. How about this one? You know, I don't think it's going to make electrical contact, and it's pretty tight the way it fits. It sort of goes in there, but it really was designed for Thor. It hugs in there nicely. But you can also use the standard charging cable. So the Thor is a lot like the i4 Air, except when you look on the chart, the Thor itself has 1 gigabyte, 16 gigabyte. Now there's a new one coming out called the Thor S, and I don't have that yet for review, but we will be taking a look at it. It looks like it has the same memory component, so I'm not sure yet what the difference is going to be with the Thor S, but I put it on the list because it is on its way. We're not done yet. There's also Limfo. Limfo makes the LES1. Again, same as the Thor. Even more same as the Thor than the IQI i4 Air because it uses the same shape button. They're both available in each other's colors, so really, other than the dock and the band, there's not a whole lot different. You're looking at the LES1 from Limfo. LES one is right here, and it's 1 gigabyte, 16 gigabyte as well, just like the Thor. Okay, so you're only getting that huge bump up in memory when you go to the i4 Air. But other than that, these three are the same watch. Totally confused? Let's take some measurements. For the i4 Air, thickness is 14.23, and band thickness is 21.4. Now, because the bands are a bit different, let's look at the LES1, whose band is 21.8, and the Thor, whose band is 21.89. Okay, so it's probably 22 on both of these, and this one is a little bit narrower, 21.5. And then the i4 Pro has a bandwidth of 21.5, so no big change there. And the thickness, accounting for the heart rate monitor in there, is about 15.5. Now this doesn't look like it's snapped all the way in here. Let's try it from this side. I'm not sure what's going on there. 14.8 and i4 Air. There it is. The i4 Plus, the original, about 14.5 millimeters. Wow, we just knocked off a bunch of them, but all of these are pretty much in the same overall class, just the way they're manufactured. They're using the same case, with or without a camera, and the fixed bands, of course, is your deciding factor. What do you want in a band? And that'll dictate which of these watches you get, along with the memory or the camera. All right, we are caught up. I've checked everything off. We're about to move to the last category, but before I do, I want to play with you guys a little bit. This is a watch that I got in a long time ago. It was only from one vendor, got a big clunky base to it. It's pretty nice, shiny black metal, one button, kind of bulky, but nonetheless a nice smaller watch. And it's not on this list. Now, I know when I post a video, some of you guys, like, somehow your finger's on the button and like within 20 seconds to a minute you say first, second, third, and that's really cool. But there's a part of me that just wonders if you actually watched the whole video or not. So here's a little test for you. If you're watching this video up to this point, can you leave a comment that says, I saw the GS01? Because it's not on the list anywhere. By the way, this list and this whole chart, they're going to be available for download in the show notes. And you know the show notes are right below the video. And if you're watching on your phone, I don't know how you get to them. You might need to go to a computer. But there'll be download links for this information there. But just do me a favor and leave a comment that I saw the GS01, and that will be what I consider the first person to have watched the video, because we're way into it, and we're almost wrapped up. Cool. All right. I love having little contests like that. Can't give anything away, because as you see, I keep every watch I've got, and I only have one deep of them. But it's fun to play with the comments. Okay. Last category, we're still in the large, round, non-leather band watches, the DM368 and 368 Plus. When you look on here, they're a miscellaneous, and the differences in memory, we have a 0.5 gigabyte on, and 8 gigabytes on the original, and it's gone up to 1 gigabyte, 16 gigabytes for the DM368 Plus. Okay? And this is what they look like, along with another friend, the LF16, right here. Okay, there's the DM368s, the LF16. Look how identical they are. They have an interesting kind of a bezel to them that has lines across it and numbers on the inside. They protrude out a little bit with some edges with a button and no button over there. The speaker is right underneath that flange, so it's not against your arm. That's pretty cool. It's a TPU band, like I said. You have a snap-off, easily removable SIM cover. Again, this is a nice feature if you think you might move your SIM from your phone to your watch and back and forth. You don't need to take a screwdriver. You could actually do it out in the field. The bad news is it doesn't give you a solid waterproof seal on here. And that's okay because these really are only splash proof. We don't have hardly any Android watches that are fully submersible. But nonetheless, you got to worry a little bit about making sure you got it in there really good. So, Limfo LEF16 is the same as this guy, which is bright red. Notice I have the cable with this one because although it looks similar, it's different. It's right angle instead of coming out the other way, and the way the pins work, it's not interchangeable with the other ones, and you have to go across it backward like that. So for this class of watches, well, if you're only getting one, you don't have to worry about it, but you got to keep the wire with him. Okay, so this is the same, just a different color, and this is the same, just a different memory configuration. So in terms of measurements on these, the bands are 21.9, did I get? 21.7 if I squeeze it, so it's about a 22. Should be the same on this one, since it's basically the same. And now there I'm getting 21.5, 21.8, 21.9. Okay, so those are the same, and overall the thickness of the watch. And apologies for not doing 100 measurements on every single watch and weighing all of them and changing their diapers for you and everything else, but it's just too much. I mean, look, we're well over an hour. I don't know if any of you are going to watch and make a comment. If nobody leaves a comment, I'm going to be really sad. Okay, so this is the last go-round of these, and they're nice watches as well. They all fit in one kind of a grouping. They're larger overall. We're about ready for a summary. I want to wrap this whole thing up, and I want to get my pen back here because we've just done that one, and the LF16. Now you see there's still a couple of them that are uncircled here. And that's because I have not reviewed them yet, but I do want to show them to you. The S99C, that's this one from ZGPAX, who's done the S99A, B, and C, yeah? But it's totally different. All others seem to be a bit different. It's got a camera and a button. Don't know a whole lot more about it than the picture, but there it is. That's ZGPAX. Then there's Z-Blaze. Z-Blaze has made this one. This is the Z-Blaze Thor S. Now, it's not at all like the original Thor. That's a front-facing camera from what I understand. Got a whole different bezel. Got a whole bunch of buttons on it. That's something we're going to be seeing soon, too. Not sure what all that'll do, but if it lives up to its expectation, we could be doing front-facing video and stuff, chatting right from the watch itself. And then, we're all waiting for this one. There's the expanded view of the LEM6, not the LES, but the LEM. The LEM6 on its way in for review right now, but I can't show it to you in today's video because we don't have it. Here. Okay, wow, that's a lot, and that wraps up the LEM6, the S99C, and I already circled it, but there's the Thor S, and I believe we have the D5 Pro still coming. So there's at least those 4 watches that I know of that are already on order that'll be in here for review. Have you subscribed yet? Have you told your friends yet? Have you told your dog? Join in. We've got a lot more coming, and I know it's getting close to the buying time. So depending on when you're watching this, your best buying days with China for buying these watches is 11/11, Uh-huh. Black Friday coming up right day after Thanksgiving, and Cyber Monday. You get a good shot at getting some good prices then. On those days, free for all. Get the best price from any vendor you can. On any other day, I'm going to invite you to come back and find the watch you're interested in, look at the review, and in the show notes at the bottom of the video of that review, check for a link from the vendor who sent us the watch that we would have to be able to show you, and has given us usually a good coupon with a discount. And if you want to, if you can, and if you want to support us and them, purchase using that link and that coupon. And I've really been working hard to get you a bunch of good coupons, so they're as up to date as I can manage with 40 plus watches here, and double that in terms of fitness bands and tethering watches and dual mode watches and all the other things we cover. Wow. By the way, check out the Amazfit Pace if you're interested in that one. Got an incredible deal going for a short time with a short supply. And when it's gone, it's gone. It's been gone twice, but I managed to get them to renew it a third time. Really good price if you like that fitness band, the Amazfit Pace. You have really stuck in here. You've been watching SmartWatchTicks. Really appreciate you being here. You're following this channel and letting me oogle over all of these incredible Android watches. As far as buying goes, in terms of what I would buy, what I would advise you to buy, I'm going to make you another little video really soon, I hope, that'll give you just tidbits and my favorites. Take care. Come on back.